Greetings, all you... No, I want to take that again. Greetings, all you food-chewing... Okay, let's do this one more time. Greetings, all you food pre-chewing Ferengi out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. There we go.
Nice.
This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Greetings to, not just the female Ferengi who are the ones who pre-chew, but males also.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be more welcoming than Fletcher.
The pre-chewed food eating male Ferengi.
Yeah. Okay.
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 3, Episode 13, Life Support. Alternate title, Bareilenstein.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yep. Our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. We won't reveal anything too big, like when Dax finds that magic lamp with a genie. It's like, you ain't never had a friend like me.
It's actually... Sorry, it just struck me as really funny that you said that, because when I was looking at the two guys behind this episode, or the two people behind this episode, which I'm sure you're going to get to, that
Right.
Story by Christian Ford and Roger Sofer. So I was looking them up,
Right.
and apparently Christian Ford, before this episode, was like a cinematographer, set designer on some stuff, and then after pitching this story for Deep Space Nine, he and Roger Sofer would go on to write the screenplay for a fantasy comedy called Kazam.
Oh my gosh. Kazam starring Shaquille O'Neal.
That was my assumption. And then you mentioned the genie, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this, what a weird coincidence. But now I'm trying to find out if that's in fact... Okay, Kazam 1996. Was there another Kazam movie? No, yeah, I guess it's Kazam 1996. That's starring Shaquille O'Neal, all right.
All right. Or Sinbad or Cedric the Entertainer, or it's called Shazam, or whatever.
Right, yeah, it's depending on what universe you hail from.
Yeah, what time stream you're from. But this episode originally aired January 31st, 1995. It was written by Ronald D. Moore, story by Christian Ford and Roger Sofer, creators of Kazam also. Man, what a career these guys have.
Right.
And directed by Reza Badi.
Our old buddy at this point.
Yeah, he's putting in work this season. He just did part 1 of, the past tense.
Yeah, past tense.
So... he's like, yeah, I'm game. I'll direct another one.
Apparently these two, as I'm reading more, these two just really love writing with each other, because like all of their credits listed here seem to be together. So it's like they did the story for the thriller Slow Burn, which was also Ford's directorial debut.
I never heard of that.
No, never heard of that. They also wrote the story for the 2005 television science fiction film Category 7, The End of the World, the television miniseries Merlin's Apprentice, and the television science fiction horror film Final Days of Planet Earth. And then in 2008, which is the last thing... Oh no, not quite the last thing listed here. They co-wrote the teleplay for the science fiction television thriller Infected. More recently, Sofer, I guess alone, wrote the animated fantasy film Throne of Elves in 2016.
Wow. All these amazing things that I've never heard of.
Yep.
So, yeah, just, writing partners...
It's nice to find someone you can work with so well. I just love that off the back of this episode, it seems, since this was their only other credit, they got a major motion picture screenplay off the ground with Kazam.
Yeah.
And such a success that was.
I wonder if they, had an in with Shaq or something. It's like, oh man,
good buddies with Shaq, yeah.
If we attach you to this movie, we can really get it going.
That's probably how that movie got made, right? Like, Shaq is like, I want to be in a movie. I'll be in this movie.
It's like, bring me the first script that you find. So I want you to go to Hollywood, go to their big pile of scripts, just grab one and bring it to me.
Okay, so now I've gone to the Kazam page. The film's origins began when Paul Michael Glasser took his son to an NBA All-Star game when an acquaintance who was on Shaquille O'Neal's management team called and asked if his son would like to meet him. After saying yes, the acquaintance asked in passing if he knew of any film roles for Shaquille, to which Glasser replied he should play a genie, which laid the foundation for what would become Kazam.
Wow.
How is that the first thing that pops out of your mouth? Like, looking at Shaquille O'Neal, like, I got it. He should be a genie.
Oh my gosh, that guy is a genie.
Which I guess really, did you see the 3,000 Years of Longing movie or whatever?
Yeah, I saw it with you.
Remember? Oh, were you with me? I didn't remember that. Yeah. So it's like also big black guy as genie. Maybe that's just the thing. I
mean, he's only big sometimes though.
Well, that's true, but in real life he's pretty big.
I mean, for a human being. He's not like supernaturally big.
Well, no, right. So, so Glasser took Kazam to Warner Bros. As they had the Michael Jordan project Space Jam.
Uh-huh.
And then he went back to Interscope Communications, where he'd already done 2 pictures. He had to have the screenplay and greenlighted in 10.5 weeks, or he wouldn't be able to make the movie, as Shaquille had to go back to basketball camp. So the script was written in 6.5 weeks, with production commencing after 10, before going into turnaround, where it was acquired by Disney. So he's like, oh crap, I need somebody to write this screenplay in really, really fast. So you guys over there, come on.
It's like, who wrote that super depressing Deep Space Nine episode? Put them on this genie project.
Yep. Can't go wrong there.
That's how the brain of a guy works who looks at Shaq and is like, that guy needs to play a genie. So yes, I guess we'll dive into this episode.
Yeah, let's actually get back to what we're talking about.
Finally, a nice lighthearted episode after our past tense two-parter.
If you only watch the Jake and Nog parts.
Right. This is the episode that meme is about, where the guy's laying in bed and it says Kira's boyfriend dying a slow and painful death, and then outside there's like a party going on and it says Jake and Nog shenanigans. So yeah, the strange saga of Jake Sisko's love life continues. Walking down the promenade, Jake encounters a girl named Leanne, and the two begin reminiscing about eating gach at the Klingon restaurant with a guy named Orak. And so this is all presented like these are characters that we've always known.
Right, yeah. Do you not remember Orak, that classic prankster?
All those Jake, Nog, Leanne, and Orak adventures that we saw. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Leanne and Orak broke up recently. And Leanne wants to know what Jake is doing tomorrow night. And it's got to be tomorrow night for some reason. Jake says he and Nog are going to play some Domjot, but this is an exact quote. They're not really firm plans. In fact, I was thinking of canceling.
Yep.
Just some of the most natural dialogue you ever heard. Seizing on this, Leanne invites Jake for dinner at the Klingon restaurant. Which we haven't seen that Klingon restaurant in a while.
It's true.
And okay, later, were they even at the Klingon restaurant?
I think they were at Quark's.
Yeah, they were at Quark's.
Yeah.
So, I guess Nog poo-pooed the Klingon restaurant idea.
Well, Ferengi only like Ferengi bugs, is what we've been told before now.
Sure. Well, I mean, oh yeah, I guess Klingon food is also technically bugs. Or gach is at least.
Gach is at least, right, yeah. I don't know about some of the other stuff that they've got, but...
No. As Jake smiles and watches Leanne walk away, suddenly Odo, Chief O'Brien, and 2 other guys, so, I don't know, Michael Eddington, Jones, who knows, erupt from Odo's office. And they run down the promenade. They're like, out of the way! They meet Dr. Bashir and Nurse, which is this is the first time we've ever seen this Nurse.
Yeah, and she actually has, a decent number of lines and stuff in the episode, I think. So it got me thinking, I kind of miss having a nurse that we knew on the Enterprise, like Nurse Ogawa or whatever. Can we get just a recurring secondary character nurse?
Yeah.
But I don't know that we ever do.
Get Jones to do it.
Yeah, Jones can do anything.
So yeah, they meet Dr. Bashir and Nurse at an airlock and explain that a transport from Bajor has just suffered some kind of accident. As they pull survivors out of the transport, we see two of them are Kai Wynn, boo, and Vedek Bareil, who ain't looking too good.
No, he's not.
While Bashir and Nurse work on Bareil in the infirmary, wearing their snazzy Starfleet surgical outfits, Wynn meets with Cisco in his office, which I almost forgot that Cisco is the emissary. It's been so long since they brought it up.
Kind of forget that sometimes.
Wynn's like, I want to meet with the emissary. I was like, who? I was like, oh, Cisco.
I mean, it could be an emissary from the Cardassians or something, but no, it's Cisco, yeah.
Yeah.
This nurse is named Jabara.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and she has been here before. She diagnosed the high fever of O'Brien after she was informed by Jake and Jadzia Dax in Babel, and she was in The Wire.
Oh, wow. She's been around.
So this is her third episode, it seems like. Babel, The Wire, and then this.
Babel is like episode 5 of the whole series.
Right, so yeah. There you go. She's our recurring nurse, even though she doesn't recur all that often.
She recurs once per season.
Yep.
So yeah, Wynn explains that she and Bareil were on their way to secret negotiations for a final peace treaty between Bajor and Cardassia. Apparently Bareil has been working quite hard preparing for these final negotiations. Wynn expresses admiration and says that she could not have been as forgiving as him if she were in his place. So just to recap, Wynn tried to have Bareil assassinated, and when that didn't work, she tried to frame him as a Cardassian collaborator.
Although, from her perspective, I think it was more blackmail because she thought that it was legit true, or that there was a possibility that it was true, so she was trying to hold it over his head to get him to back down. But neither one is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, I would have to say I would also have a hard time being forgiving in those circumstances.
Well, it's not even, for me, it's not even about forgiving her, which I agree, I would have a hard time forgiving her, but it's like, do I want to lend my support to this person so that whatever fucked up thing she does next has, like, my backing to it? Because she is a shady, I almost said human being, she's a shady Bajoran, and she's gonna do more shady stuff.
Right. Well, I think that's those sort of part of Bareil's logic for, stepping out and then working with Wynn or whatever. Because he was like, yeah, she's going to need guidance. And I think part of guidance means, like, supervision.
Reining her in.
Yeah. But down in the infirmary, Bashir gives Kira the bad news. Bareil is dead. She heads off back to work, and Bashir and Nurse begin autopsying Bareil. But wait! His neurons are still firing. Maybe he can be revived. They get immediately to work poking at Bareil's brain while Bashir spouts medical babble.
Yep.
They start shocking Bareil's brain, Bashir constantly upping the voltage like a mad scientist. And the nurse the nurse is like, what? You can't put that much voltage? That could kill him on a guy who's already been declared dead.
Yeah.
So Bashir's like, I think my special medicine will protect him. It's like, but also you've already declared him dead. So literally, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, not much to lose on this one. Let's go ahead and give it a shot.
Amazingly, it works. Bareil is alive. Everybody's amazed. Wynn can't wait to resume negotiations, but Bashir is hesitant to let Bareil do anything strenuous. Kira is happy to have Bareil back and have this brutal emotional roller coaster behind her once and for all.
Yep,
I said once and for all.
Nothing can possibly go wrong now.
Meanwhile, Nog bursts into Jake's house and announces that he found the perfect mark for their Domjot hustling. Jake breaks the bad news that he has a date and has to cancel. But Nog is not upset because of his personal rule of acquisition. Money is money, but women are better. Then he essentially blackmails Jake into finding him a date too.
Not as poetic as some of the other rules of acquisition, but okay.
I mean, it's to the point.
Yeah.
I totally know what that rule of acquisition is about.
It's true.
I think also at this point he's talking about how, like, at some point he's talking about how Jake never gets a girl or whatever. It's like Jake was like just dating like a Dabo girl.
Yeah, like, who has Nog ever dated?
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Nog is so excited, he may even wash his lobes, which just the implications of that are disturbing. In the infirmary, Bareil and Wynne argue about a point of negotiations, something about orbs, when Bashir walks in and informs Bareil that he's not getting enough blood flow to his internal organs. So note, internal organs is an inherently funny phrase that is used repeatedly throughout this super serious episode.
I've never found it funny, but okay.
It just reminds me of that episode of Invader Zim where Invader Zim keeps stealing people's organs under the theory that more organs makes you more human.
Okay, sure.
But there are two options. Put Bareil in stasis while Bashir figures out a solution, or shoot him up with an experimental drug that has a 22% chance of killing him. Bareil is too invested in the treaty negotiations and opts for the experimental drug that will at least keep him alive and functional for the next few days.
And does anybody ever opt for the stasis? Like, they're always offering stasis in Star Trek as like, we'll put you in stasis till we figure out how to fix you. And everyone always says like, I don't want to be in stasis. I want to die.
Yeah. I don't know. Apparently we can't postpone these negotiations. We got to do them right now. Whatever. I guess, we're in a hurry to get this chapter of Bajoran history closed.
Well, there was the momentum. She didn't want to lose that momentum.
Sure. Why not? But Sisko sits in with Wynne as negotiations begin with Legate Terrell. Terrell holds to the old, many times debunked talking point that there are no more Bajoran prisoners on Cardassia. Oh, of course there are Bajorans in prison on Cardassia, but that's a different matter, and we're not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, it's funny how, he's just like, come on, I've told you guys there's no Bajoran prisoners, and then Sisko rephrases slightly. He's like, well, yeah, obviously there's Bajorans that we're holding for various reasons, and it's just like, so you're not afraid to admit that they exist. You're just like, yeah. I don't understand how you so easily just be like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously, but no.
Yeah, well, that's a totally different subject. The Bajorans that are in prison that you want back is not on the table right now.
Well, and also it's like been proven repeatedly that,
right, yeah. I think
that they have all of these places.
We've just seen numerous times. It's like, oh, there's another Bajoran prisoner.
Yep.
Anyway, but he's like, yeah, also we'll be happy to pay you for all the damage we inflicted during the occupation if you give us all our stuff back. And he seems weirdly insistent on the vaguely worded principle that anything of Cardassian origin still belongs to Cardassia.
Which, I mean, Bareil says in a minute, it's like, no, we've addressed that, or that was already addressed in like this previous agreement.
Uh-huh.
I don't think we ever come back to that to be like, yeah, what was that all about?
Yeah.
Even though I think it's super obvious that it's like, well, they want Deep Space Nine. This is a thing that they built. So that's what they're trying to trick you into giving them. But we never confirm that. We never find out what his like evil plot was that he wanted all their stuff. Also, that must be a shit ton of money that they would have to pay for all of the damage that they did during the occupation.
Yeah,
because like they strip mined everything. They destroyed so much stuff. They killed so many people. Are they paying like per person that was murdered under the occupation? Because I don't know that Cardassia has this much money.
Yeah, these sound like some really burdensome reparations, but who knows?
Not that Bajor doesn't deserve for all the horrible things that Cardassia did.
Right.
But at the same time, like, this is a lot, I feel like, a lot of money.
I'm sure behind the scenes they agreed on like a mutually satisfactory number or something. I don't know.
See, but my thing is, like, because of how much money it is, regardless of how much, like, you agree on, why would the Cardassians agree at all?
Yeah.
Why is it important to them to have a treaty with this one small planet? They're not a member of the Federation. Once they become a member of the Federation, which is theoretically going to happen, then, like, I assume that, like, overriding treaties between the Federation and the Cardassians would, like, take precedence over local treaties between the former Bajoran government. So it's like, what is so important about making a treaty with Bajor right now that you're like, yeah, we'll give you all this money that we don't have any reason to give you. I'm not sure what Cardassia can get out of this.
Yeah, unless they're just like, okay, look, this is it. Like, we are completely done with you. We don't want to have any more whining from you guys about all the horrible stuff that happened in the occupation. It's like this treaty just puts all that to a close. Or something.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that is something that they'd get out of it, is like, oh, we don't have to listen to your crap anymore. But at the same time, once again, it's like one planet, and they're a whole, like, empire in the stars. Like, what do they care if one planet doesn't like them?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot more planets that don't like them, given what we know of the Cardassians.
I mean, just with all their problems, like with the Maquis and stuff, I don't know, maybe they're just like, let's just snip this problem.
That's true. I guess the Bajorans are, as an independent government, are probably free to supply the Maquis all they want.
Oh yeah, and that could like totally be a provision of the treaty. Is like, you will remain neutral with, all of our conflicts with the Maquis and whoever.
The only thing I can think is that the Bajorans control the wormhole. It's in their territory. So maybe, like, traffic through the wormhole is worth something to the Cardassians.
And they said that was part of it, there would be an exchange of ambassadors. And so, diplomatic relations would be normalized. And yeah, so that totally, like, access to the wormhole could definitely be a big part of that.
Yeah.
But Wynn confides to Sisko that she's in over her head and needs Bareil to guide her. If only there were some kind of qualified government officials or diplomats or something who could handle or at least advise on these important negotiations, and they weren't placed solely in the hands of the one religious leader.
It is so strange that the religious leader is the person who is going to be signing this treaty, but also the person who's negotiating it. Like, I understand Bareil was negotiating it before, but apparently, like, a Vedek was the primary negotiator, and they don't have anyone else who can negotiate because Terrell won't respect anyone else. So the Kai has to do it herself, and she's clearly not good at this.
Yeah.
So, and doesn't want to admit, except to Sisko, kind of a little bit, that she's not good at this. Which is like, man, yeah, maybe Bareil should have been Kai, huh? If this is the kind of thing that the Kai is going to have to do, and you suck at it.
You mean I have to do more than get up and make pretty speeches that make people feel good? That's not what I signed up for when I became a clergyman.
I don't know. Her speeches are more the kind of clergy speeches that make people angry at someone.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So, back to this week's Jake and Nog shenanigans. Nog, on their date, proves to be not a very good wingman.
Yeah. Understatement.
So, I won't go into all of it, but I find it impossible to believe that Nog has not learned the cultural differences between Ferengi courtship and everyone else in his many years living on this station.
Yeah, like, maybe he's literally never been on a date before, because he's just like, what? This is normal Ferengi stuff. And it's like, but nobody else at this table is Ferengi, so why do you think... okay.
I mean, well, like, remember, like, the time he was hitting on that, like, Bajoran chieftain girl or whatever?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's not like this is just, like, his introduction to the world of, men-women relations.
That's true. I don't know that he ever actually got a date with her, so maybe he would have been like, okay, you need to chew my food now.
Yeah, but he was never like, shut up, woman.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, yeah, Wynn goes to the infirmary to get Bareil's advice on the negotiations, but he's clearly struggling. Wynn demands that Bashir shoot Bareil up with more drug. Which she's like, give him more drug. It's like, I think I will be the doctor. So, yeah, he kicks her out. Then he tricords Bareil's internal organs and announces, yep, those internal organs are fried. You want me to put in some fake internal organs? Do it, says Bareil.
Apparently, Andre Bormanis, who worked on the show, consulted with his friend, a pathologist at St. John's Hospital in Burbank, to make the medical dialogue as authentic as possible.
He's like, okay, I want Bashir to say, your internal organs are failing. Can I replace them with artificial internal organs? And then the pathologist was like, yeah, that sounds good.
It says Bormanis was interested in how much medical technology could replace organs without resembling the Borg.
That was a thought that occurred to me. I was like, at some point there was like, maybe we should take him to the Borg. The Borg will help us with this.
Also, I don't know, I didn't really notice, but It's the guy who does the props designed 2 big props for this episode, a brain scanner and a brain operator. The scanner was a small, lightweight device which you could place over the head, which I think we see later that looks like a little beanie thing on his head. And then the operator was a large device which enclosed the head, apart from a small opening. However, when Martin saw the dailies for the episode, he was amazed to see the scanner being used as the operator and vice versa. The director couldn't figure out which one was which, so he took a guess.
Well, there's the big clear plastic dome thing.
Yeah.
And then there was the thing that was like more of a, I don't know, it looked more like a medieval looking thing to me. Like a thing like you put your whole head into and then you like clamp stuff shut around your head. And then, yeah, also there was just the big glowy wire that goes into your head.
Yeah, I guess that was the wire thing with the little thing on top was supposed to be the scanner. I don't know. It does seem weird that because it's used as the operator, which I guess is like after he's had brain replacement. That's what's like running his thing. And I was like, so wait, like the big full head encompassing thing was supposed to be in all the scenes where he has like robot brain? Because that would be weird.
I don't know. I sure hope someone got fired for that blunder.
It says that the prop designer thought the mix-up was hilarious. So I guess everyone came out of that happy.
Sure. So Bashir meets Wynn in the conference room and asks her to lie and tell Bareil that he's no longer needed for the negotiations. You see, in medicine, there's a principle called informed consent. I need you to start misinforming him so he'll stop consenting to all these crazy treatments.
Yeah, well, it's just medical ethics are very different in the future, is what we've learned throughout this show.
He tries appealing to Wynn's ego by saying that the credit for the negotiations could all go to her. But she points out that success is not guaranteed, especially if she's the one doing the negotiations. Ah, yes, says Bashir, you just want Bareil as a scapegoat in case things go wrong. You're a coward. Amazingly, this does not sway Wynn, and she holds firm to letting Bareil make his own decisions. And then she menacingly says, I won't forget what you said here. And then Bashir says, neither will I. Which, what did she say?
I just like that it's a very Telltale game moment where it's like, Kai Wynn will not forget this.
I was like, what did she say that you especially objected to? Like, all she said was, I think he should make his own decisions.
Well, that she wants Bareil to die. But here's an interesting question for you. Do you feel like Kai Wynn comes off as not as mean or evil in this episode?
So that's one of my major notes for this episode, which we'll get to maybe a little bit more later. But I feel like both Wynn and Bareil are both completely stripped of their normal personality. Like, I think that they both just kind of are plot devices in a way.
So, apparently, during the filming of this episode, Louise Fletcher was extremely ill with the flu and had to lie down between takes.
Oh.
And so Bear says that he thinks her illness meant that she did not have, quote, that same nasty little streak that we normally get out of her.
Yeah. I mean, that could totally be it. I just felt like, I think the writing also just has something to do with it.
Well, and part of that, I think, is that, so it talks about the original pitch for the episode was Frankenstein, with Bashir in the role of Dr. Frankenstein. And it was going to be a Federation ambassador involved in peace negotiations with the Romulans to disestablish the neutral zone. And so the negotiations are at this pivotal moment, and there's a shuttle accident, and he dies in sickbay, and Bashir has to figure out how to reanimate him and bring him back to life for long enough to complete the negotiations. But over the course of the episode, he starts to go crazy, and in the last scene, Bashir is forced to let him die once again. But the producers were like, this is an interesting concept, but it doesn't work if the audience doesn't feel sympathy for the character, and if we have just met this guy, nobody's going to care. And Ronald D. Moore is quoted saying, we were trying to make it a Bashir episode, but in reality, everything focused on the ambassador and nobody cared about the ambassador. So they start like solutioning how to fix this. And so they're like, well, I guess the obvious choice is to make the ambassador type character a person that we already know and care about. So their first thought was, maybe we should make it O'Brien. Because Colm Meaney was rumored to want to leave the show to concentrate on his film work. So they're like, well, we could kill him off here. And then Colm Meaney's like, no. I want to stay on the show, please. And so after that, they're like, okay, well, I guess we can make it Bareil then. Because they weren't happy with how the Bareil-Kira relationship was going, and they weren't sure where his character was heading long term, so they decided he was heading to die.
Ouch. I mean, it kind of sucks that for Bareil, that the last time we saw him was his weird, creepy hitting on Dax stuff.
Yeah, it didn't come across real well for him.
And then this one where he's just like laying in a bed with a headache pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, it's not the most noble ending.
Yeah. Anyway, we got back to the amazing Jake and Nog story. Over dinner, Jake tells his dad about the double date fiasco and agrees with Sisko's assessment from like season 1 that humans and Ferengi have 2 different values to get along. Sisko says he was wrong and suggests that Jake talk things over with Nog. Meanwhile, Bashir comes to the infirmary and finds Bareil having some kind of episode, presumably after a trying session of giving Wynn negotiation advice. So this is where I really start to question how hard it is to lay in a bed and give advice.
Yeah.
But whatever. I was thinking of, because this is such a, you see this trope so many times. Like, I was thinking of the movie The Wrestler. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but basically like,
No.
It's about this old wrestler and he has heart problems, and the doctor is like, you better not wrestle or else you're going to have a heart attack and die. But of course, at the end he wrestles anyway.
Does he have a heart attack and die?
I think it's ambiguous. I think he's like, he does some big wrestling move and the movie just kind of ends. The point is he's a wrestler. You can't stop him from wrestling. And then
wrestlers got to wrestle.
Yeah. I haven't seen that movie in so long, so I could have it totally wrong. Or I was also thinking of the episode of The Simpsons when Homer is doing the getting shot in the gut with a cannon.
Oh yeah,
trick.
Yeah, can't do that again.
And the doctor's like, don't get shot in the gut with a cannon or that'll kill you. But this time Bashir's just like, don't give advice on these negotiations or it could kill you. And we just keep having these scenes where Bareil seems to be sitting comfortably in bed. Then he gives advice. He's like, oh no, that was too stressful. It was a little weird to me. So Bashir announces that the drug has now damaged part of Bareil's brain. Wynn is like, well, you replace his internal organs. Can you do the same with the damaged parts of his brain?
There's no way this should work. I'm just saying.
And Bareil's like, Bashir is like, I guess. And then for once, Kira agrees with Wynn and tells Bashir that Bareil would want the fake brain implants.
I mean, he would. That's one of the things is the whole episode, Bashir is like, I want to get around what my patient wants.
Right.
Instead of, listening to what his patient wants. And so Kira is correct here that, Bareil would want to finish the negotiations because we've seen that is all he cares about at this point. But I'm still just like, how do you mechanically replace memories and like I don't understand, but whatever.
I don't know. I don't know what parts of the brain are damaged. I don't. But yeah, so Bashir goes ahead and replaces part of Bareil's brain, which turns Bareil into some kind of creepy robo person. So he's like, "Oh, hello, Kira. I'm ready to resume negotiations now."
Yep.
And then just to finish the story up, in order to patch things up with Nog, Jake executes a brilliant ruse to have himself and Nog arrested and thrown into the same cell.
For robbing the Tholian ambassador.
Yep.
How dare they?
Yeah, I know. However, Nog uses Sherlock Holmes-level deduction to figure out the ploy, so Jake comes clean. What was his plan if Nog didn't figure it out on his own?
I mean, I guess the plan was to stay here until like they could talk to each other without being all mad and would make up. But Nog's, I don't feel like there's that big a logical leap where it's like, if I got arrested, my dad and uncle would be super pissed and they would be here right now being pissed at me. Also, you're the station commander's son. There's no way that Odo just throws you in here without consulting the station commander, and the station commander would be here. So,
I mean, he's got a point.
Because also, this is not the first time that they've been taken into security by Odo, and like dads and uncles are showing up in like 5 seconds.
Right, yeah, they know how this works. But yeah, the two talk things out and resolve to continue their friendship despite their various alien habits that disgust each other, and to date separately.
Good plan.
And this is where we learn the food chewing detail, which...
Yeah, right.
It's like, I was holding back. I didn't make her chew my food for me.
I just love the idea that chewing is so much work that you have to have someone else do it for you.
So, okay, does Nog just not understand that, like, that probably only works with Ferengi females? I don't know.
Well, Ferengi females, because they're not allowed to, like, leave their homes or be seen by anyone else until, like, you marry them or something. I'm not even sure how courting works on Ferenginar.
But yeah, the peace talks are apparently a rousing success. But at the party, Bashir is in a down mood. Quark introduces Kai Wynn to a souffle named in her honor, which is apparently quite a hot seller.
He's very excited about it, and I was just like, that's so random. I don't understand why this is here, but it's funny, so.
Yeah, why not? In this completely tonally consistent episode.
Yeah.
Bashir gets called down to the infirmary where the rest of Bareil's brain has died, or is about to die or something. And Kira's like, can you replace the rest of his brain with robot parts? And then Bashir's like, fuck no. I'm getting off this train.
It's like, I could, but like he's not really alive at that point. So what's even the point?
He's enough of an unholy abomination as it is. So Kira painfully accepts the inevitable and sits with Bareil in his last hours. The end.
See, I'm wondering, knowing the original story, how interesting it might have been if he's like, yeah, okay, let's replace the rest of his brain, and then Bareil is like this weird kind of super robot guy, and Kai Wynn's like, okay, we're gonna take him down to Bajor, we'll find something to keep him happy, we're gonna honor this guy for everything he did for us, and then there's a later episode where he like is going insane and murdering people.
I have been beyond the veil of death. And have seen things you cannot imagine. I just imagine like an Event Horizon scenario where he's like gouging out his own eyes and like stepping creepily into shadows.
Yeah, this could be a lot of fun.
Man, why didn't they do that? I want to see, like you said, like in the original script, it's like the ambassador guy is like going crazy and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see more of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of just some dude in bed the whole time. Like, come on. So, on the subject of the tone, the radical tone shift here, it says, although producers were happy with both the A story and the B story as individual stories, they were not happy with their combination in this episode. According to Ira Stephen Bear, after viewing the first set of dailies that included scenes from both stories, the producers were beyond shocked, and a feeling swept through the room like, what the hell have we done? And so, the decision to have this combination was Ronald D. Moore's, and he explains, I said to everyone, this is such a grim episode, we should have a light B story. Maybe let Jake and Nog do some fun stuff. It sounded great in concept, and I enjoyed writing the scenes, but man, such a mistake.
Yep. Once again, just see the meme. I'll put a link to the meme in the description.
And meanwhile, the reaction to the death of Bareil was not as positive as it might have been. After the episode aired, producers received an extremely angry email from a group calling themselves the Friends of Vedek Bareil. The email angrily protested the death of Bareil, and enclosed were pictures of a memorial service that they held for him.
Oh, nice.
And then Robert Hewitt Wolf, who created Bareil for In the Hands of the Prophets, commented, Ron butchered my character. What can I say? I think it was a good episode, but that's one character payment I'll never see again. I don't think the episode works well because he was an important part of Kira's life, so it has an impact on the audience. No, I'm sorry. I do think the episode works well because he was a part of Kira's life. It has an impact on the audience, which had gotten to know Bareil.
Sure. I like that he's bitter. He's never going to get Bareil payments again.
Yep. He's like, damn it.
So I was trying to make this lasting, enduring character. We were going to get a Bareil spin-off and everything. I kind of disagree with the idea that just a random ambassador we couldn't feel for or something. I mean, we see this all the time. Just bring in the random ambassador's wife or something, and, you know, it'll do the trick.
I think that we should, even though they're taking cares to separate themselves completely, I think we can bring a character from Next Generation in here that we know from Next Generation and have feelings for and kill them off. That would totally work.
Are you thinking like Loxana Troy or something?
Well, I mean, not Loxana, because obviously they're doing some different stuff with her. And also, I don't buy that she's integral to any negotiations, let's be fair. But, you know, there's probably others. You could even do, we've got like Ambassador Spock hanging around out there, which maybe Leonard Nimoy's not going to agree to do that. But I'm just saying that there's existent characters in the Star Trek universe that could have been used.
Yeah, I don't think people would be happy with that being the way that that they finally end the Spock character.
Yeah, probably not. And I mean, we killed off Savick already, but that worked out well in that episode. There's probably some other ones out there. Bring in, like, you know, fucking a Commander Shelby or what's his name? Guy who took over the Enterprise while Picard was captured by Cardassians.
Eric. No, that's not Eric Pressman.
Yeah, no,
Ronnie Cox, whatever that guy's name is.
Bring him in. No one's going to complain about killing him off. It's fine.
Right. I'm one of the people who does not buy into the narrative that guy was a good captain, just different.
I can see arguments both ways on that, to be honest with you, but he wasn't a good captain for that situation, I don't think, is the main thing.
Like, I think we're not gonna review that episode.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a note I have. During his entire time on the show, did we ever learn Bareil's given name?
I mean, I know what his given name is, so it came out at some point, but did we learn it before now? Is that something that maybe comes out after now? I
mean, even Kira just calls him Bareil.
Yeah. That's a good point. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can Google out this... Yeah, Kira always calls him Bareil. It says... I don't know. Yeah, I can't find if we've heard it before now. If we have, it was like a very brief mention.
Yeah, it might have showed up on, like, you know, when they were looking at his files or something.
But... Oh yeah, it could have been like a screen thing. True.
I don't know. I just thought that was a little weird that they put him through this whole thing and we just still never learned what his given name was. Also, just a quick note, since we've been tracking this, we're back to station logs now. No more commander's log.
Okay, it is season 6 when his given name is revealed.
Oh, wow. So a ways away.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess when we're on the station, it's station logs. When we're off the station, it's commander's logs.
I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Why not?
One thing that popped into my head while we were talking earlier was, do you think there's blood in blood wine?
I always assumed there was.
Apparently, it's never been revealed on the show. But I just I was curious when we were talking about Klingon food. Like, they're always drinking that blood wine. Is there blood in there?
I mean, I always took it for granted that it was made out of blood.
Apparently, the first time chronologically a human drinks it is Jonathan Archer in an episode of Enterprise, and they're like, "Hey, drink this blood wine," and he's like, "What kind of blood is it?" And they're like, "Hey, you know, don't feel bad if you can't stomach it." They don't answer the question. They're just like, "It's okay."
It's whatever blood we find laying around.
The Star Trek cookbook suggests that blood wine is made of fermented blood and sugar.
Sure, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, it could be like whiskey. You know, there could just be like a mash bill of blood with, you know, with all different kinds of you know, blood mixed together.
Oh yeah, it could.
It's like this is Targ blood wine, or, you know, who knows.
Okay, so Bormanis is quoted as saying that he thinks this is one of our best episodes, precisely because it raises some of these questions. Like, we've established that Vulcans have a living spirit that can survive death, and Klingons believe in an afterlife. And so in this one, we went with the idea that 24th century technology is not sophisticated enough to completely reproduce the subtleties of the bioelectric circuitry that presumably gives rise to consciousness.
Well, except for, like, data.
Yeah, well. And so he's like, it's impossible to say whether artificial circuits would be a viable seat of consciousness. We may get the answer to that question in the next few decades. It's one of the biggest questions in science, and a lot of people are working on it.
I mean, that is a fascinating question. I don't feel that was a major point of this episode.
No, but I guess he's saying that it raises these questions to be asked, at least.
Sure. So, Bashir mentions it briefly. So you at home can turn to the person you're watching with and ask that question. Okay.
There's also a fun note. Nog says he doesn't even know what a Tholian looks like. The only Tholian body part previously revealed on screen was a Tholian's head in the original series episode, The Tholian Web. Viewers would not fully know what a Tholian looks like until the Enterprise episode In a Mirror Darkly 10 years later.
Ooh.
So I don't remember that episode well, if I've even seen it, because there's a lot of Enterprise I didn't watch. So I don't know what a Tholian looks like.
I also don't know what a Tholian looks like.
So
I'm not super curious, but
okay. Here I googled it and found what a Tholian looks like. That's pretty freaky.
Oh,
here I'll put the picture in the chat.
Oh yeah. I think I'd remember stealing from that guy.
Right. Yep.
It's like, you mean that creepy looking spider monster thing?
Lava bug, whatever it is. Yeah.
It's like, no, I did not and would not steal from that.
Yeah, no, probably don't mess with that guy.
So I don't even know what that guy has that I would want to steal.
Yeah, what is he using that Nog's like, I gotta get me some of that.
I can just imagine, you're breaking into his quarters and you open it up and you just look at whatever's in there. It's like you don't see what's in there, but it's just like, oh, Jesus, God, no.
Honestly, what is the Tholian ambassador even doing on Deep Space Nine? It's not a place where ambassadors are stationed. Even if they're Bajor, ambassadors to Bajor, they probably live on Bajor. So,
it's just a truck stop type place.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, maybe he was just there for a few minutes or a few days or whatever. Yeah.
Tholian ambassador. Maybe he was the Tholian ambassador to something in the Gamma Quadrant, and he's on his way out there or something.
Sure, the Tholians could be making an alliance with the Dominion. That could happen.
So the Tholian ambassador shows up. The founders are like, "Oh God, get away!"
Oh, they're like, "We got to try to turn into one of these. That's interesting."
It's like, can I turn into you?
Yeah, I don't have anything else. We can get into ratings if you want. What would you? How would you rate this episode?
Let's jump into ratings. Okay, so here's my analysis of this episode. So first of all, the good. Kira brings a good emotional performance, even if it's deeply unpleasant to see her put through this horrible emotional ringer.
Yep.
I do like that we got a little bit of course correction on Sisko's Ferengi racism. Very minor point of the episode, but
I hadn't considered that, but that is a good point. Yeah,
I like that it was addressed. I don't know if it belongs in this episode, but
maybe that speech Quark made in that previous episode. Really, he's been thinking about it.
Yeah. That you did slavery and the Holocaust and stuff speech.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, humans do kind of suck also. And buried somewhere in there is maybe kind of a good ethical dilemma. I don't know. But like I said, the Bareil and Wynn characters, I feel completely stripped of their normal personalities. So everything feels off. It's hard to buy into this premise sometimes. So I was watching the episode, and it's like you always kind of make this contract with a show or a movie you're watching that you're like, okay, I will buy into this for the purpose of the story you're trying to tell.
Sure.
But I felt like it just kept stretching it and kept pushing it to where I was like, I mean, it feels kind of like a false dilemma that like Bareil either can help with the negotiations or he can see to his proper medical care. And finally, just overall, the plot feels really ghoulish, and just the storytelling in general feels really clumsy. So, with all that, I'm going to give it a Lieutenant Junior grade.
Okay. I can see that.
And this is one, just like the more I thought about it, the more my opinion kept going down.
Yeah, I think I know where you're coming from, because like the more we've talked about it, the more I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of problems with this episode.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you think of this episode?
So, I think that the emotional core of the episode works well, and that yes, it does. It's interesting to see Kira go through this with, but unlike some other characters that we may have known, she's keeping, at first at least, what Bareil would want, like, at the forefront. And so I'm like, okay, I kind of respect that she believes in him enough that she wants to give him what he wants, even if it's not a good idea.
Right.
And then at the end, she's like, but you know, can we not just keep him alive somehow? Like, we can have some of him left. And it's sad when Bashir's like, no. And there's I don't have a problem with some of the medical stuff. Like, I feel like replacing organs is something that we've established previously they can do. So even if it's like, we're going to have to replace all your internal organs, I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch, but okay, fine. All right. When we get to replacing like half of his brain, which at first it's like a part of his brain, but then later she's like, it's the other half of his brain, isn't it? And they kind of establish that we've replaced half of his brain with a machine. I'm just like, did we though?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a stretch to me. Like, if half of his brain died, how did you download the information from that half of his brain to put into a robot? Okay, yeah. So I agree that at some point the suspension of disbelief is like broken for me, where I'm just like, okay, we've gone a little bit too far. I didn't feel like Wynn's character was that far off of the norm. I felt that she seemed very self-interested, and that you can see what Kira even points out is like the moment that what she cares about is handled, she's like, nah, fuck Bareil. Like, get him. Like, it's better for her if she doesn't have to share credit with somebody who's even half alive. So she's like, nah, yeah, kill him now. I got what I needed. So it's not as like pointed as it was. Like, I agree that she doesn't seem as nasty as maybe she normally does, but I don't think that she needs to be as nasty to get what she wants here. So there's no reason that she would be necessarily. So I didn't have a problem with her characterization, and Bareil doesn't get to be much of a character in the episode.
Right.
So I didn't notice what you did, that you're like, he doesn't seem that much like himself, because I didn't feel like there was an opportunity for him to be himself, really. So the characterization didn't bother me as much. I do agree with what they said. What apparently everyone felt in the room was that this is such a mismatch between A and B stories that it's just like, it is on some level kind of disturbing that we're going from like Kira crying to like wacky Nog and Jake hijinks.
Right.
And also, they say they like both the A and B story. I don't care for the B story that much. I mean, yes, it does touch on those interesting areas of like this culture conflict, but I agree with some of the stuff you said about like Nog cannot be this oblivious.
Right.
Like, there's no way. After having lived, he's never even lived on Ferenginar, as far as we know, that he could be this, like, it's just bizarre. And so, like, seeing him offend these women through his actions I don't find it that amusing. I find it off-putting. So I didn't like the B story that much. I felt like the A story is riddled with problems. Even though at its core, there's an interesting story there. And I feel like they wandered too far from the Frankenstein concept, that they lost some of what could have been interesting about that, like the guy going crazy.
Sure, yeah.
Like, let Bareil get up and walk around with a robot brain and go slowly insane. That would have been interesting to watch. Bareil in a bed, not as interesting. It really does. they say they started off trying to make this a Bashir story, and Bashir and his weird medical ethics do definitely play a role, but it really turns out to be not even really a Bareil story, because he doesn't have that much that he gets to do. He gets to be like, no, I want to risk my life. That's kind of all he gets. So it ends up being more of a Kira thing than anybody, I think, and it's not even that much of a Kira story. And then Bareil dies at the end, so even if it was a Bareil story, who cares? Because we're done, apparently. So, yeah, overall, I find it hard to like the episode on most levels. So I'm going to also give it the Lieutenant Junior grade.
All right. I mean, one thing I will say about the Wynn characterization is I feel like if it wasn't Kai Wynn, if it was just like the president of Bajor was there and they had all the exact same lines and everything, I feel like you wouldn't read in like all the sinisterness, I feel like, comes from our history with Kai Wynn and not the text of the episode, so to speak.
Maybe you're right. I feel like the one scene with Bashir feels more like sinister Kai Wynn-y. I don't know. Other than that scene, I agree with you that you could probably slot anybody in there and they would seem maybe mildly self-interested.
Yeah. And I think that scene owes a lot to, Louise Fletcher's portrayal.
Yeah.
Like she knows how to do this. She knows how to be Kai Wynn, even if she apparently has the flu.
Well, and yeah, if we didn't have the history with her, then Bashir being like, you're a coward, that wouldn't come across the same way, because you'd be like, well, that's kind of harsh to like pull on somebody all of a sudden, but because they don't agree with you. But because of that history, that scene definitely gets some more weight to it on both sides.
I mean, it's just kind of also because I kind of agree with her in that scene. I think if it was me in that position, I would be like, maybe it's time to, I would go encourage him to try to take a step back.
Right, but not try to trick him.
Right. I'd be like, look, we can bring negotiators up from Bajor, and we got Cisco here. He can probably help. Like, we can get this done. Like, you need to focus on your health now. Yeah, I wouldn't be like, yeah, we don't need you anyway. And, like, throw rocks at him and make him go away or whatever, which apparently is what Bashir has in mind.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure that Bareil would have bought her suddenly being like, no, we don't need you. It's fine.
Yeah, Bareil would be like, no offense, Eminence, but you kind of suck.
I think you do need me. I think I know this better than you. But, and still, there's, in the back of my mind, it deeply bothers me that they never bring up again, like, what this, like, they have the whole thing where it's like, he's plotting something
right.
at Cardassian, and then we never address that again.
Well, I mean, I think it's like you said, he just must be trying to, like, get Deep Space Nine back or something.
Yeah, I mean, it seems obvious to me, but I'm like, how do you not put a line in that explains that? Like, have somebody figure it out or something. Like, I don't know. It just bothers me.
In realistic negotiations, somebody would have figured that out pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm really shocked that Cisco isn't instantly like, well, obviously.
Yeah. I think Cisco would have immediately jumped on that.
Spend 5 seconds thinking about what does Bajor have that was once Cardassia's. Oh, the thing that we're standing on. Yeah. Like, come on.
Well, whatever he was doing, Bareil just shut it down immediately anyway, so that's just never going to happen, apparently.
Yeah, I guess in the armistice that ended their war or whatever, they're like, but we're keeping all your shit.
Yeah. Which I think is totally fair.
I mean, spoils of war at that point. What are you going to do? Of course, the Cardassians on their side be like, well, we have your orbs or whatever. You want to trade?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that should be part of this negotiation, really, because we find out that they have lots of orbs, and the Bajorans really care about these orbs.
Yeah, I guess Bareil feels like it's not an urgent issue or something. You'd think
maybe that's in the treaty and we just don't hear about it.
I don't know. The treaty was apparently a success.
Yep, like one of the notes is, this episode is when the Bajoran Cardassian treaty is signed.
Oh, wow.
So, I know it's important or something.
So have you, I mean, I don't think many people have seen it, but have you ever seen the movie called Oslo?
No.
It's about, I think it's based on a true story. I don't know how loosely, but it's about the Oslo negotiations between Israel and Palestine It's basically like while they were having these, like, I think it was President Clinton was having these big showy negotiations in Washington. Like, basically, these Norwegian diplomats organized this thing. It's like, okay, look, Israel send one person, Palestine send one person. Like, we will go hang out in this mansion in Oslo, and like they will do like the real, negotiations and like address the topics that aren't as easily discussed in public or whatever. And then like they'll come to an agreement, and then we will feed that agreement to the people in Washington or whatever. While like those big showy diplomats and politicians make a show of negotiating.
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's a known fact that it's like much easier to cut a deal with like a couple of guys in a room than it is with the big important shows. So yeah, I buy that.
So yeah, it's just it's an interesting story about how like just the mention of some subjects, like if we'll send like both parties into a rage, so they have to be like, okay, look, we're going to draw a red line around that subject, and we're just not going to discuss it for these negotiations, because like any mention of it will just make emotions fly too high or whatever. And so it's a bunch of stuff like that. It's a pretty interesting movie. I think it's on streaming somewhere, but
it reminds me of the scene from The Diplomat, where they were talking about like, she's like, yeah, when the Iranians used like this one phrase, it was a signal that they were ready to actually get down and really talk about things, and like by meeting out by the dumpsters. And then like the one lady's like, did you really meet by the dumpsters? And she's like, yeah.
Yep. Anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
I find it interesting that like we talked about, like as we discussed the episode, my thoughts on it went downward. I think at the beginning of my very long rant before I gave my rating, I was thinking Lieutenant, and then by the time I got to the end of reviewing it in my head and talking about it out loud, I was like, nope, Lieutenant Junior grade. Yeah. So that is an interesting factor of this episode that I don't know has happened that often.
Yeah. So I was just as I was watching the episode, I was like, this is okay enough. Then it just kept going. It kept getting like all these weird tonal things, and then when they replaced half of Bareil's brain, that's what I felt like. That just went into some really weird, like creepy, dark territory. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Yeah. And then as I was taking my notes for this, I was like, there's just so much stuff that really bothered me. I was like, it just kind of went. It was like this sliding scale just kept going down. I was like, you know what? This is a pretty solid Lieutenant Junior grade for me.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
All right, so ready to call it there?
Yep.
All right, so that does it for us today. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Check out that description. You may find links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
And until next time, don't forget to kiss the Negus stick. That Ferengi, cultural important thing. The end.